Welcome to the Talking Single podcast, a podcast featuring 4 single and successful Black women living in London. Join us each week as we share our stories and experiences, the highs and lows of navigating life, love, and everything in between. Oh, we do all that with a good dose of humor and a whole lot of style. I'm Ribi, I'm the cautious romantic, and I'll be hosting this week's episode. Enjoy! Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Talking Single podcast. I'm Ribi, the ever cautious romantic, and with me as usual are my co-hosts Rasheeda, Crystal, and Keysha. Hi ladies, how are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. So let's check in. Rasheeda, what's up with you this week? Are you mingling or something else?
Well, what had happened was there's no mingling happening for me because I'm Muslim, as you guys know. So it's Ramadan. So fasting started 13th of April. So from 13th of April till I think 11th of May, I will be fasting during the sun up to sundown hours. So I cannot mingle because I can't really flirt, and so no mingling until after Ramadan.
But you'll be back, right?
Yep.
After Ramadan, you'll be back. So they should
Back
just wait.
I'm ready to mingle. Yeah.
They should just wait. They should just wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Cool. Nice one. Keysha, how has Bumble been treating you?
Bumble's been interesting. Like, there are a lot of guys on Bumble, but there are not a lot of, will I say,
quality
good matches on Bumble. So, like, you can be talking to like 10 people, and by the end of the week, like, you've only got one left because people don't respond, or they just give you short answers, so they're not engaged. Or, you know, you look at their profile and there's not enough detail, you know, so on and so forth. So it's a journey. It's a journey. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, keep at it. Well done. Right. So maybe you will change your persona very soon.
Are we getting exactly? That's what I was going to ask. Are we getting a new persona?
I think she's taking your persona, Rasheeda.
No.
She's mingling.
No way. I'm going to fight. No.
I think you need to change your
Everybody
persona,
needs to
Rasheeda.
calm down. Everyone needs to calm down.
Because you're not really mingling. So maybe you need to give your persona to Keysha
it's mine. I will mingle one day.
Okay, do you know what?
I'm still stone cold, and I'm still unconscious, and I'm still unromantic.
I can say that I have the figure of a model, but if I'm not doing anything about it, I won't. So if by the end, after Ramadan, 1 week, if there is no mingling, Rasheeda, you lose it. It's not even
No. I refuse. I chose that persona myself, and it is mine.
Okay.
And mine alone. Find another
but
one.
You don't fit the persona.
But neither do you, Keysha.
No, I still do. I just said I am still stone cold.
Are you?
Still unconscious.
Are you there?
I'm still uncoupled. I'm still uncoupled.
Okay, do you know what?
We're trying to change that.
We're going to discuss personas in another episode because I think we need to reevaluate some people's personas properly.
I feel attacked by that, but okay, fine. In fact, I'm going to lie down now. I can't even deal with this.
Drama.
I think that should be your new persona. Huh? Anyway, Crystal, how was your birthday week?
Yeah, my birthday week was good. I got lots of presents from you guys. Thank you. Lots of love, lots of cards. Yeah, it was good. It was a good birthday week.
Any new resolutions?
Oh, I don't make birthday resolutions.
That's fair enough.
But I have my goals that I just goals that I just write down. They're not for birthdays. They're just goals. So I'm working towards, I think, 2 of those goals this year. So that's good.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So this was also quite a momentous week because it marked the ruling on Derek Chauvin, the policeman the ex-policeman filmed kneeling on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes during his arrest that led to George Floyd's murder. Chauvin was found guilty on all 3 charges: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter. His bail was revoked and he was placed in custody. So we still have to wait for sentencing. That's going to happen in another 2 months. But the max for second-degree murder is 40 years, which is what I think everybody's hoping for, and that Chauvin will spend decades in jail, even though apparently it is expected that he will appeal. The 3 other officers are due to face trial later on this year on aiding and abetting charges. Rasheeda, how did you feel when you heard the verdict?
I was relieved, one, and I know there was a lot of chatter back and forth, especially on social media, that there's a chance that he would have been found not guilty. But I didn't think there was any result apart from him being found guilty. Because one, the video evidence was, I didn't watch the video, actually. I couldn't. Even looking at the pictures, I can't, because it's just traumatizing to me. But for the people that watched it, it was clear he knelt on George Floyd's neck. So I don't think there would have been any verdict apart from guilty on all 3 counts. So I'm happy that justice was served, but I feel like we just need to remember that he might, even if he's given 1,000 years in jail, it would never bring George Floyd back.
No, that is so true. And I'm with you on, the debate about the verdict, because when you think about other cases like Breonna Taylor, who was shot, was it 30 times in her own house? Those policemen were never... Sorry?
Yeah, but that was slightly different because there was we saw pictures of afterwards, but there was no video evidence. And George Floyd his murder marked a turning point in BLM across the world. There were protests all around the world. So I personally don't see how they could have got away with finding him not guilty on any of the charges. It just means that the whole world...
I'm with you on that. I just feel like, do we need to have a video evidence and thousands of people protesting, before something like that is sure to have a guilty verdict? These things happen indiscriminately against people of color. But Crystal, let me ask you, do you think that verdict will mark a change on how the police deal with people of color?
I think they'll be more cautious, maybe, because they know that they can't. They probably won't get away with doing things like what they did to George Floyd. But I also think that change is a very slow process, and even after the death of George Floyd, there are other people of color who have been killed by the police. Let's not forget that. But I think what happened was good, but we have to remember that change is a slow process. But I think this is a stand, at least, to say you can't do this. So yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point you make. Since George Floyd's death, there's still continued to be shootings. Hell, in the week of the trial, there were 2 very public ones that were, that happened as well. So change is a very slow process. Keysha, do you think it changes things in the UK, especially when you think about that very, I won't even give it an adjective, the recent race reports? Do you think it changes things here?
Not at all, because the UK is still living in denial that racial...
Siri was trying
Siri,
to
would you like to answer?
She was trying to contribute. Please go on.
So basically, I think from the UK perspective, the UK is still trying to deny that race issues exist in the UK. Especially, by that 1st of April report, just basically denying there were any racial tensions or any issues or any bias. So the verdict was reported in the UK quite widely. However, the consensus is still, oh no, these things just don't happen in the UK, which they probably don't to that extent because our laws are slightly tighter. But I don't know. I still definitely think that it doesn't change anything in the UK. We still need change, definitely.
True. So today we are going to be talking a different topic, but an equally interesting one. And it was based on an article I was reading in The Atlantic. This article is a few years old, but the ideas still seem very relevant to us today. It describes two cultural ideas about the role women play in helping other women advance at work. And they're seemingly at odds, these ideas. There's the idea of the righteous or virtuous woman and the queen bee. So the righteous woman is an ideal or a belief that women have a distinct moral obligation to have one another's backs. And Madeleine Albright, and she was the first female US Secretary of State, and she expressed it very colorfully as there is a special place in hell for women who don't help each other. And the basic idea is that since all women experience sexism, they should be more attuned to the gender barriers that other women face. And because of that awareness, it should lead women to foster alliances and actively support one another. If women don't help each other, this is an even worse form of betrayal than those committed by men. I thought that's quite heavy. And hence, the special place in hell reserved for these women. So, Keysha, let me ask you, do you believe that women have a moral obligation to have one another's back? In other words, is it a must?
It's not a must, but it is definitely preferable. I mean, we are underrepresented in quite a lot of industries like engineering, technology. So I think definitely we should have each other's backs. It's not a must. I'd say it's a should, using the Moscow framework. But yeah, we really should do it. There's no excuse not to.
Any other thoughts, ladies?
Well, it's a nice to have, and it's a nice thing to have someone to look out for you, and you look out for people, and you build that women's network and support system. But if one woman doesn't do it, people are very, very, very quick to just cast her to hell, like you're doomed to hell. But sometimes you have to find out why she's not part of the network, what's making her not seemingly supportive of other women. So she might be supporting the women in a different way, might not be openly or immediately obvious to everyone, but she might be doing other things in her own little way.
Okay, fair enough. So on that point, Rasheeda, do you think race plays a role in this? In other words, do you think white women generally support Black women and vice versa, or do you find the support is within one's race?
So I don't think it's generally a race thing. Women, well, in my experience, women are generally supportive. No, let me take that back. It depends on what issue is. If it's advancing more women at the table or more women progressing, everyone seems supportive of, every woman seems very supportive. But if it's a race issue or something that has to do with Black women, yes, you have some non-Black allies, but because most people generally with race are quite lax, or they're like, I'm not racist, so, and that's all they need to do. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it depends on the issue, actually. If it's a race issue, you're more likely to find support within your Black women because they just seem to understand and just get it without explanation. You find more and more allies are now learning about Black and what it means to be Black in the office. But
yeah. But I agree that I don't know that it's I would say I don't think it's necessarily a race issue, but when you think about Black women supporting other Black women, do you see that there is that kind of support or not as much?
Yeah, but I guess it's just that thing of you just kind of get the other Black woman, as in, for instance, if she comes into work one day with an afro, next day she has cornrows and stuff like that. You just get her like, oh yeah, just give her the nod or the smile and just smile. Oh, who did your hair? And it's just something. They're just something that doesn't need a lot of explanation. And I guess maybe it's the shared heritage or shared experiences that just makes it easier to fall into a network.
Yeah. Have any of you guys, been supported by other women in your workplace? Maybe you want to share some experiences. Keysha?
When we say supported, I think it might even be worth sort of clarifying what exactly that means. Is it just sort of going for coffees? Is it somebody giving you career coaching? Because if it's things like career coaching and mentoring, I would say no, I haven't been supported. But if it's just sort of having a friendly face to talk to, which that's definitely happened, and feeling welcome in the organization, that's definitely happened.
So what you're saying is you may have you've experienced inclusion, so but you've not experienced career support.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. Exactly. Rasheeda, what about you?
For me, I mean, because the companies I've worked with have always been very, very pro women or women in technology, so we have a lot of support from senior women. But Keysha, to the point you made, like having the friendly face, you cannot underestimate those sort of interactions. I think those are even almost more important than having like a mentor that you meet once or twice a month kind of thing. It's the everyday experiences in the workplace that make you either want to go back to work or cry every Sunday night.
Interesting. Krista, what do you think? Or what's been your experience?
I was supported by my manager when I was a junior member of staff, and she's currently my mentor. I've not had that sort of support since, but she really took me under her wing. She made sure that I was developed, that I got to go to the right courses. And I don't know if that is more company policy, but I have not experienced that in the 2 other jobs that I've had after. And she also taught me what it was like to be a really good manager, because she was fair, she was kind and firm, she supported women equally, and she was just, in my point of view, she was just a perfect manager. And that is why she's my mentor, and she still continues to mentor me and all that. So I have experienced support by another woman who is now my friend and my mentor in the workplace, and she's white, she's not Black. So yeah.
Do you know, I so relate to what you just shared, because I've had the same experience with not one or two, but several women in my career. I mean, my first experience of a female boss was actually a really, really horrible one. She was just a nasty piece of work for whatever reason, I don't know. And then I ended up working for men for a long time, and then started working for women. And my next 2 female bosses were amazing. I'm still in touch with both of them. They still support and mentor me in different ways. My current boss is a woman. She's white American, and she is, again, just a brilliant support and an encourager. And I think it's very similar to what you were saying earlier on, Rasheeda, about the informal coffee chats, as well as the kind of the career guidance and support, does make a difference in the workplace. And we'll touch on this a little bit later.
And also personally, I don't take it personal. Well, as a human being. I don't take it personal when a woman at work isn't friendly or she's not supportive. I'm just like, you know what? That's your cup of tea. I wish you all the best. Goodbye. I don't hold it as a moral obligation that you must be nice or supportive of every woman. It'll be nice, but if you decide not to do it, I'm happy for you.
That's your thing. It's an interesting point. And playing devil's advocate to that point, Crystal. So what if the other woman, let's say it's not your line manager, let's say it's a peer colleague, is just actually horrible, or whatever reason you don't gel. Is there an obligation there to be supportive of that other woman?
I guess it depends on what I'm supporting her on. Because as a human being, if you're horrible to me, I'm not gonna support you when something I'm not gonna recommend you and say this person is amazing when you're not. But if something bad happens, I will, despite the fact that you're a horrible person, if something bad happens to you that you need support on, I think that we should support that person. But then if it comes to recommending them and you know that they're not good for that recommendation, then why would you know?
You're a good person, Crystal, because I had an experience in my current job. When I first joined, there was this woman from hell, I think. She just hated me for whatever reason, and she made my life hell. I think the first 2 weeks of joining the job, I was so sure I'd made a big mistake because every question I asked her, she's like, go and check the mailbox, go and check she was just not helpful. And eventually she resigned and left, which I was happy about. So initially, I tried to be nice and speak to her and be friendly because I was just like, I need to get a handover from her. But after a while, I just stopped speaking to her. And further down the line, I was at a networking event and I meet somebody, or we were in a group, and she was interviewing with one of she was going to join a team with one of the people in the group. And somebody asked, oh, have you heard of XYZ? What's she like? And someone was like, oh yeah, Rasheeda worked with her. And all I said was, I have nothing to say. I'm not going to add anything, which was clearly because I had nothing good to say about her, but I wasn't going to say anything bad. But I think in doing that, it meant that it was bad, but I couldn't pretend. I couldn't.
Yeah, but that's the point I was making, exactly, that if it was to recommend that person for something and I know that they're not good, no. But if they were going through something really bad and they needed the support, then I would support them. But if it was to recommend them and they'd been horrible, no way, no.
Even then, even for the support, I'll be like, she has other friends, as in she had a chance to be decent to me and she wasn't. So why should I go out of my way to support her through whatever she's going through? I wish her well. I'd hope her other friends will step up, but I don't think I'll be the person to hold her hand and stroke her hair. No.
It's interesting. So I remember something happened to me. This was many, many years ago. I had just started. I was a junior manager, and I was talking to you earlier about this first female boss that I had, who was just pure horror to work with. Anyway, we just never got along. She's just so nasty and catty. She could ask you to do a report. She would tell you what she wanted to do. You would spend hours doing it. She would read it and she'll say, my dog can do a better piece of work. She would say something like that to you. Or she'll say,
you push her down the stairs. Is that why she loves changing jobs?
Gosh, she was saying something like that. I even remember this one, this is the power of women over other women. I had been working on this analysis and it had taken me a long time to get it done. I had worked for the better part of a week, 12-hour shift. Finally, I was really proud of it and I knew it was a good piece of work. Gave it to her. She just looked at it and she said, and this is what your father paid for you to go to school to go and do.
What?
And
I asked her the question again.
And she tore it up.
So I asked the
and she told me, hang on, and she told me to go and redo it again.
Oh my
So
God.
my
I was like,
question is,
wow.
did you push her down the stairs?
So after she had done that, I just stopped for a minute and I just went straight to human resources and I said,
Yes.
I feel like I am being harassed by
Bullied.
this woman.
Yeah, she's a bully.
And this is what they transferred me to another team, and she stayed in the role. And absolutely after that, she absolutely hated me. But the point I wanted to make is another guy took over my role, reporting into her. And I remember one day coming into work, the guy, this is a grown-ass man who has children, was sitting on the steps crying that he had to go into work to work for this woman. And I was like, why do people behave like this? It eventually got to a point where they were evaluating her to stay in the role, and they had asked me to talk about my experience with her. In that kind of situation, I have no moral obligation to support any, I mean, it's quite an extreme example, but you'd be surprised how often you hear these horror stories about how women behave. And she is what I call the queen bee. Sorry, Rasheeda, you were interjecting and telling me to push the woman down the stairs.
But the thing is, I feel like these people, this person is probably not a terrible person just because she's a woman, or she's not trying to support other women. She's just a horrible person in real life, as in she's just terrible, period. I don't think it has to do with her gender. And you've explained it. She was terrible to you, a woman, and she was terrible to a man as well. I bet if there was a dog or a cat in the office as well, she'd kick the dog or cat as well.
Yeah, maybe I should have pushed. No, I'm not going to say that. I won't push her down the stairs and end up in jail because of her. No, but
think about it. Every night in jail, you'll be smiling to yourself.
While I'm in jail in Nigeria. No.
Actually, I joke and I kid. I do not condone violence.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified. But when you think about that kind of woman, right? There is this, and that's almost very similar to the idea of the other typology. So we talked about this virtuous woman. Now there is the queen bee belief, which is, on the other hand, it argues that in reality, women just can't get along. That there is this, it rests on this idea, and it's probably a ridiculous idea, that there is something inherent to the female sex that causes women to undermine each other on the job all the time. So this is so that you could be friends if you met in a different environment, but in the work context, there's something in the female sex that causes us to fight each other. And the ultimate queen bee is a successful woman who, instead of using her power to help other women advance, undermines her female colleagues. So do you think, Keysha, I'll come to you on this one, there is some truth, any truth to the queen bee stereotype?
I hate to say it, but yeah, I do definitely think there is some truth to that stereotype, because I think I've always felt funny about women in positions of power. Sometimes it goes fantastically. There's empathy, there's kindness, there's mentoring. And sometimes it just goes horribly wrong. And you get a lot of stress and drama and emotion, which, you don't necessarily know where it's coming from or why it's being directed at you, which can be really frustrating. And I've had cases where I've had women bosses where my career just literally stagnated. They're very nice people, but your career will just stagnate. They will just not push you forward. And you change boss, and then, suddenly the floodgates open. So there's definitely some truth to that stereotype, for sure. Absolutely.
Crystal, what do you think?
I think there is some truth to that stereotype, but I think that a lot of queen bees, as we call them, are probably maybe the only woman she may be the only director, the only female director in like a group of 10 men. And there is a lot of performance anxiety. They have to be a certain, I'm not saying that it's the right way to be, but they have to be a certain way. And that can be the reason why they are like that. They feel like they have to be harsh. They feel like they have to be like a man. And then that trickles down to the people under them. And they just end up just being really horrible people.
Cool. So, Rasheeda, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, to Crystal's point, so there was an article I read ages ago. I think it was in the FT, and it was by some guy that was, I think, Bill and Hillary Clinton's somebody during the two terms. And he found that Bill on one hand was very, very personable, and he knew the names of everyone, and people just seemed to like him. Whereas Hillary was more reserved, and she was less liked, and she was kind of considered as a hard and tough woman. And his theory was because she was in a male-dominated environment of politics at the time, where she was trying to, I think it was maybe during her first term, or where she was trying to run for the first as president for the first time. So she was trying to break into a boys' club. So she felt like you had to have this persona, this male, cold, unfeeling persona to fit in in a boys' club kind of thing. So I guess that's why some women could be considered queen bees.
Yeah, there is some truth to that, which we will touch on in a second. Keysha, did you want to share something?
What I was going to say is, I'm not even sure if it's a case of women being compared to men, because I think men definitely handle these situations in a different way. I think the way, when I mentioned the woman didn't mentor or push me forward, I think I've not experienced that being managed by a guy. I think these are very unique to how a woman manages, and I think, there's something to it in the way that we do already know that women and men manage slightly differently, and I think these are outputs from a way the woman manages. I don't think it's a good comparison to compare it to the way a man manages, because they just do it entirely differently. They're very sort of, they don't, I don't want to, they don't really move into the drama of things, or depending on your boss, maybe micromanage and things like that. But Crystal,
I beg to
differ about that.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, go on, Crystal.
I've had apart from one, all the male managers I've had have been terrible managers. The best managers I've had have been women. I don't know whether it's, actually, no, I wouldn't say that. All my team members knew it as well. These men were terrible. And there was one particular man who brought all the drama. So I don't
What kind of drama? Because I'm as in, did they lack empathy? Did they not just let you move forward in your career? Were they catty? What kind of drama?
He was nasty. He brought drama. He suspended. So he brought drama. He was he was the head of our department, and he made the whole department toxic to the point where people started to quit, and I quit as well because it was just too much. He was making us cry, and I've never experienced that with a woman.
So what I will say,
fair enough.
Sorry, go on, Crystal.
So, and then there were other managers who I've had who were male. They were just lazy. They just made us do all the work. So to be honest, I don't think we can say men or women. Maybe it's just a personal thing. Mm-hmm. But my experience has been different to Keysha's.
I was going to say exactly the same thing, that I don't think it's got anything to do. Management is not based on gender. It is based on the personality of the person, the experience, the temperament. I don't think sex is a determinant of how one manages. But anyway, I'm going to move this on. Before there was one question I wanted to ask Rasheeda, and other ladies might want to comment. Do you think that women are nastier towards other women than men are to men, or women are to men? Rasheeda?
kind of, sort of, not exactly. And I say that not in a exactly worky perspective. I would make it lighter, like social media or anything. Imagine, I think it was this week, Ashanti, the R&B star. I think she has her boyfriend's picture came out, and he was a white guy. And most of the comments that were insulting her and cussing her out for dating a white man, and oh, she looks this, she's that, were all women. Were just women. And I remember reading through the comments. I'm like, why are these women so nasty? As in, she's allowed to date whoever she wants to anyway. But women, I think, are more critical of other women, one. And a lot of things, in my opinion, a lot of things we do are for other women's approvals. Because imagine you're going to a party, you wear a purple top, purple lipstick, eyeshadow, your hair done. A guy just sees nice face, nice figure, boobs and butt, and that's it. All the color coordinations and fit of the blouse and the tight dress, it's all for other women. And God forbid one bra strap be out. It will be a woman that'll be like, can you imagine? Look at her. She's so sloppily dressed and na. So I think, yes, women are generally harder on other women than men are to men. Well, I don't know how men interact with men anyway, but from the little I've seen, most of them don't care about the little things that women carry on their heads as big things.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any other thoughts?
I'm gonna bring it back to the workplace. I think some women just find it easier. There's some women who say, oh, I find it easier to get along with men. And they just don't, for whatever reason, they just don't get other women. So they might not be as nice to their women colleagues as they are to their men colleagues, because they just feel like they're part of the boys club, or they feel like they don't get on with men. And this is just I'm just talking about the workplace here.
Well, I don't get that thing when women say I don't really get along with other women. There's so many sort of shared experiences, well, my opinion anyway, as in, I guess I don't know who I get along with more, women or men, I don't know. But it's always just nice to talk to other women, like you're going to the bathroom, you're going to wear a nice dress or something.
But you don't know what they've been through, though. They may have been bullied by women and men were nicer to them. We don't know what experiences people have been through that has brought them to that place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and actually leads us to the next part of the article, because it talked about some research that confirmed that there is something about how women rise up in the ranks in a role that explains that kind of queen bee behavior. And it's similar to what I think some of us mentioned earlier on, that it's triggered in male-dominated environments or roles where women are devalued. So there is gender bias or discrimination. Because when you're on the receiving end of that kind of bias, or it forces the realization that actually your colleagues, your male colleagues, see you as a woman. And when they see you as a woman, there is a negative stereotype that women had or have in that environment, that they're less competent, they're more emotional, they're not rational, so on and so forth. And so those women experiencing those kind of behaviors are really worried that, I'm not going to progress in my career if people see me as a woman and I'm not good at a leadership role. And so to get around those barriers, this is what the research is saying, the women try to set themselves apart from other women, and they start to promote themselves and distance themselves from other women, or even make it harder for other women to progress because it puts their own career in jeopardy. And one of the ways that they do this is by describing themselves in typically masculine ways, denigrating other women. I'm not like other women. I'm always prioritizing my career, and so on and so forth. And that is what actually.
I have a mustache.
I don't know whether you go that far. Promotes that kind of logic, and I find that so odd that because of discrimination, women end up discriminating against other women. It's just baffles my head. But would you agree with that rationale that I've just explained, or do you think some women are just, bad, just rotten? Rasheeda, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's some women are just inherently terrible. Yes, you've had to play the boys' game to get ahead. But if you're really and truly a nice and kind person, your previous terrible experiences would be motivation for you to pave the way for other women to make their lives easier. So you be a nicer and kinder person to make sure more women get to where you're going. And the silly example I'll give is, have you guys seen Crazy Rich Asians?
Yep.
Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't watched it. But the part, I don't know if you would agree with me, but when the boy's mom, Nick's mom, was giving the girl a hard time because she said she wasn't good enough for her son because the grandma had done that to her. And I just thought, actually, that was terrible, because she should have had more empathy, in my opinion, for the girl. Like, well, you're not a typical girl that I'd want for my son, but guess what? Neither was I, but I'll take you and make it slightly better for you. But
she didn't want to do that.
I don't know. I think I don't understand the reasons or want to justify the reasons why women do it. I just think they just shouldn't. I think it's good to look at why they're trying to do that, denigrating other women and, making them saying that, although I have kids, I prioritize my career, blah, blah, or even having to explain why they prioritize their careers. I think if you're whatever issues you have as a person, you really just shouldn't be taking it out on somebody else.
other people, yeah.
Then
also it could be, I just thought of it, maybe if they've lived that persona for so long and it just becomes them. So that hardened, I'm so tough, I show no emotions thing. If you wear that mask for so long, then maybe it just becomes your face.
Yeah. Crystal, what did you think?
I think things are definitely changing. I think there's a lot of conversation going on about women supporting women. I am kind of in the tech industry, and I know that there's like lots of groups for women in tech where women who are senior in the tech environment come to talk about their experiences, helping women grow. And so I think there is a change. And I think that these queen bees, as we call them, they're very few of them, and more women are learning to support each other and bring each other up, because together we can only get stronger. And if we aren't supporting each other, then we'll just continue to fail. So I think people are learning. It might be a slow road or slow process, but I definitely think there has been a shift and a change.
No, I would agree. I think it is getting a lot better. And the only reflection that I had was I have some sympathy for women who were a generation ahead of us who have this behavior trait, because I think they needed it to break through the glass ceiling. They needed to be a bit more hardcore to kind of create the path. And in doing that, it obviously had this effect of how they behaved to younger women coming up behind them, which is what was not good. But they were forging a path, I know what it's like to be the only woman in a team of men, and you want to get your voice heard. And sometimes you start to behave in a very hardcore way, and you forget to remove your armory when you leave the meeting room. And there's something about having to keep that in mind going forward. So I do agree that it is getting better. And I think it is something that, one always, especially when you're in, and what was interesting that the research said, it's not just about women. If you're a minority, that behavior is likely to show itself as well. So a question for you ladies. What has been your experience? And we talked about it before, but specifically in the workplace, any experiences where maybe you have exhibited some queen bee tendencies or somebody has behaved that way towards you? Anything to share, Keysha?
No, actually. Nope. Nobody has exhibited that towards me. I have had people who did not treat me inclusively or just dismissed me. I've had some actually horrible experiences in the workplace where, you know, they just put you apart from the rest of the team and treat you like a pariah. But in terms of a direct boss literally sabotaging my career or just making my life generally difficult, I've not had that. But I have been ignored, and it is as hurtful. It is as painful, literally, within a team if you're the only one that's sidelined or ignored.
Crystal?
I have had an experience, and I think Keysha and Rasheeda know about this. I changed sectors and I moved to another sector. And number one, I was the only Black, I was the only Black woman, and then I was the only Black person. And nobody spoke to me for months. That was one of the things that happened to me. So I was excluded, and I felt it. And then because they were excluding me, I didn't know that there was this one woman, and she was absolutely horrible. And she'd been doing different things to me. Like, I would invite her to a meeting. She would cancel and go behind my back and tell the people that the meeting had been canceled, but she wouldn't tell me. So I'll be sitting in the meeting room waiting on the phone, and then I would go to my desk and it will be cancelled, and I'll go up to her and be like, oh, the meeting was cancelled. And she'll be like, oh yeah, I cancelled it, but I didn't know. Oh, sorry, weren't you included? And I knew she did it on purpose. That day I was so angry. I was so angry, but because they were all excluding me, I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Apparently they all hated her, including men and women. She was just horrible to everybody. And she was the only director in a group of like 6 men. And the last thing she did to me, because my personality is very quiet. I try to avoid conflict. But the last thing she did to me before I left that place.
Before you killed her.
Before I left that place was one day she was very strategic in her behavior. She made sure, because I was sitting opposite her at this time. I wasn't before. And she sat with the men, the directors. And she made sure that her boss wasn't there. The 2 girls who sat beside me weren't there. But at this time, I'd started being included bit by bit. And she stands up, so she's standing over me, and she's like, and I look up and I'm thinking, why is she looking at me? And she's like, have you got your headphones on? I'm like, no. She was like, I just wanted you to know that you hum, and it's like, and it makes me want to slip my wrists. I just thought you should know. And she sat down.
Oh, she did not.
And I looked right, and I looked left. There was nobody. And we didn't have HR because it was such a small company. I was fuming. I went to the toilet. I messaged all my friends, and they were all like, what? She said that to you? Bitch. And I told Rasheeda, and Rasheeda and I came up with a reply. And I told her, don't speak to me like that again. That was condescending. That was rude. You made me feel less than. And also, you're making light of a very, very serious mental health issue. And I tell you, this woman never replies emails, never, ever. As soon as her bum touched her desk, she replied really quickly. Oh, I'm so sorry. It was just a joke. I'm sorry that my joke was taken out of context, but I take on board your criticism. And I didn't reply. I just left it at that. I was like, bitch, don't try me, because I may be quiet, but I am also crazy. Bitch, don't try me.
You've got friends that can fight.
Yes.
That was not even an apology. That was such a cop out. But at least you called her out on her crap. Rasheeda, what about you?
Apart from that really terrible, wicked, I'm sorry to say, sorry but not sorry, witch at work. Because that's the only thing, actually. It got to a point every morning on my way to work, when I'm like 5 minutes away from work, I'll be like, God, please teach me how to interact with this woman. One day she comes up to me and says, Rasheeda, how do you pronounce your last name? I'm like, stupid witch is like the easiest Nigerian name to pronounce, as in it has so many vowels. And she was like, oh, that's just how it's written. I'm like, yes. And I mean, she left anyway, but as Crystal did, I feel like these terrible women, I don't think is a gender thing. They're just inherently terrible, because she was terrible to other people anyway. She was a terrible woman, because we had another girl on my team. Oh, okay. I was about to give you some juicy.
No, you finish.
She's just a terrible woman, because we had another girl on my team say her name is Lisa. Lisa's brother-in-law worked in our office, and we all sat in the same place, but she was having an affair with our teammate's brother-in-law, whose desk was two banks away from us. But Lisa was on maternity, so when she came back, she had to break up with her boyfriend, but everybody found out anyway. Just so terrible. God, I hated her.
But one thing I would say is, and we've said this a couple of times, that some women are just terrible to everybody. But I would still say, though, you might be terrible to everybody, but because we know how hard it is, especially for women to progress, I really do believe it's not a moral obligation, but that there should be some, especially when you're in a senior position, to make it a little bit easier for those coming up behind you, because the struggle you had to go through. You don't want to make it harder for them. So it's not about going out of your way to be nice, but showing support and helping, and certainly not making it harder for women coming up behind you is what I would say. So that's the only thing I would say.
Well, you said it, Ribi. Yes, that's the right thing to do, make it easier, but she might have just been wearing the armor for too long, and she just doesn't know how to take it off. I'm not excusing the behavior, but that could be it.
Yeah,
but then again,
in that case, she just has like a horrible piece of work.
But you have to keep yourself in check, actually, and ask, what are you doing? Is it nice? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it da? What am I doing to build up other women?
Absolutely, spot on. Okay, we are
out of time. Like always. Thank you very much.
Okay, we are out of time, but before we go, we will do a rapid fire question. Okay, so ladies, are you ready? I have one question. I'd like you to share a quick tip for dealing with a colleague, so not a boss, but a colleague that is acting like a queen bee. And I feel like, based on some of the conversations we have earlier, I need to stipulate that the tip has got to be legal. Yeah, it cannot be something illegal or physically harmful to the colleague.
What if it was an accident, though?
You can accidentally bitch slap her.
Let me rapid fire, please, ladies. Okay. I'm gonna start with with our darling Crystalite. One quick tip.
If it's a colleague, I would say maybe go for a coffee and ask them, like, are you okay? Is there something going on in your life that's making you act this way? Or you could, that's two tips. Or you could ask other colleagues. You could ask other colleagues as well to, like, maybe ask, to come together and ask, are you okay? Something going on? Can we help you? That's the tip I would.
Keysha?
Share.
I would say stand your ground, know your rights, know what you're entitled to, and if you have to go to HR, go to HR. If you have to seek advice from another senior colleague do that. Don't let it fester, and don't let her get away with it, because she might also need some quote unquote training on how to behave in the workplace.
Okay, Rasheeda?
Fine, you've taken away all the options I had, because most of them were pushing people down the stairs or accidentally spilling coffee on them. But seriously, I like what Keysha said, and I'll echo it. Stand your ground. Most times I've realized people that are bullies or terrible people, I mean, I don't always recommend it, but if you give them a taste, or not even a taste, a hint of a taste of their medicine, they back down. And if, as Keysha also said, if you know you're right and you're in the right, don't be afraid to escalate. Shout loudest to whoever that will take it up.
Thank you, ladies. Very interesting and revealing podcast. Thank you so much for sharing. To close,
what's your tip?
Sorry?
What's your tip?
My tip is really stand your ground, really. Yeah, stand your ground. If you find someone acting like a queen bee, you don't have to accept it. And if you're in the right, report. Certainly don't let it slide and think that it will be better.
Yeah.
So there is plenty of evidence to show that women do indeed support one another. When women work with a higher percentage of women, they experience lower levels of gender discrimination and harassment. When women have female supervisors, they receive more family and organizational support than when they have male supervisors. Now, I don't know whether that's been our experience, but that's what the report was saying. And several studies show that when more women are in management positions, the gender pay gap is smaller. I didn't know that. So for those righteous or virtuous women out there, they are there and they are making it better for other women. And I think my last point is, if you are in a position of authority in your role, just think about how you can bring more seats to the table, or bring more tables and have more seats there for other women to thrive. And a reminder that May the 12th is our 1-year podiversary. To celebrate, we're giving away 3 special prizes. Woo! Yeah. Prize 1 is a £30 Etsy voucher to buy anything you want from Kut's Creation. Prize 2 is a 1 power hour coaching session with SJ, founder of Soulfully Single. She was on our last podcast and she is amazing. Prize 3 is a book by Jen Siqueiro, You Are a Badass Every Day. You can check out our social media for entry rules. Those not on social media can enter by reviewing us on Apple Podcast and email a screenshot to us at singletalkspodcast@gmail.com. Last entry is at 12 a.m. on the 11th of May, and winners will be announced later on the 12th of May. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a great review on Apple Podcast or whatever platform you use. Till next time, take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Talking Single podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We'd love to hear from you, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter with the handle @TalkingSinglePodcast. You can also send us comments or questions with the hashtag @TalkingSinglePodcast. We are downloadable on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a great review, and of course, share with your family and friends. Take care and see you next week. Same time, same place.